Hi everyone, I'm back again today with another video for you. I'm back in the same place at the kitchen table, but today I am going to be doing a little bit of wet felting, and I've got all my things here on the table in front of me, and I thought I would just turn the camera on and have a little chat with you whilst I do it. So I've been really busy this week making things for some of the in-person craft fairs that I've got coming up over the summer. And it's always so, I really enjoy it. I really enjoy making things and imagining how to set up my stall and what kind of things would work well, and what, you know, how the colours might go well together, and what kinds of things people might be interested in seeing. And one of the things that I really like to make are wet felted bookmarks, and I've got some in various different stages of production, but I needed to wet felt some more bases that basically just the foundation piece of felt that I then cut into the correct shape. And so yeah, that's what I'm doing today. I've got here in front of me some of the landscape dyed wool that I dyed a couple of weeks ago. So this is just the green stuff, so it's not the variegated one with the brown and the yellow. This is just the pure green. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to working with this and seeing how these come out. I think it's got a really lovely depth of colour, which will give the finished piece a really nice texture. But on top of this, when I lay this out on the table here in front of me, I've also got some little pieces of silk. This is actually like usually when you have silk, it's like a silk hanky. Hang on, I've got one down here, let me show you. So usually when you buy silk for wet felting with, it's usually called, I think they call it a silk hanky, and it's usually in a piece like this. And from this then I just kind of tease bits out and add that to my wet felting. But this particular piece that I've got here that I'm working with today is actually in a kind of like a roving form. And you can just tease the pieces off the end like that and add it in wisps onto the wet felting project. And I've got a couple of little bits of just roving here, which are in kind of greens and browns, which I thought I would just add in some little bits of colour, because this is quite a light green, and I just wanted something to just darken it down a little bit, and so I thought these kind of pinky reds and browns I thought would go quite nice. And then I found a little batch of just little tiny locks, which I also thought might look quite nice. They give a really nice texture in the wet felting as well, and there's a few more here. So anyway, just a collection of little bits. I think that's what's so lovely about wet felting, is that you can just pull bits from all of your collection and you can add all sorts of things in, and it makes these really lovely textures. So and I've got a bowl of hot water here, which I'm going to add some soap to. I've got my soap in this, I keep it in this little Tupperware. I let it dry out in between wet felting sessions, and then I keep it in there. And I've got a little sprinkler thing, and yeah, various bits and bobs here on the table. So I'm not going to do this as a tutorial. I am going to do a wet felting tutorial, I'm hoping in a few weeks or a month maybe, where I kind of show it like really step by step. This isn't going to be that. This is just, I'm just going to kind of bring you along whilst I do it. So I'm not going to go into masses of detail about my setup and how I lay all the pieces out. I just thought you might like to watch as I make it. If you're wanting a tutorial, it's coming. to a YouTube channel near you. Just gonna have some tea. Oh, it's another really beautiful day outside. So yeah, I almost took this outside. I thought that'd be really nice to do, but it's just every now and again it's raining, so I thought no, I'll stay here. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I think, I'm working with recording equipment that doesn't quite do what I want it to do. I haven't yet managed to, I need to invest in some better recording equipment basically. But for now, I'm just working with what I have. And so I think what I'd like to do now is put you so that you're overhead so you can see what I'm doing here on the table. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do it, so I'm going to just spend 10 minutes or so setting up some way of you being able to see overhead. Okay, back in a second. So I think I've found a way of positioning the camera now where you can kind of see what I'm doing. It's not quite overhead, which is a shame, but and the lighting I appreciate isn't fantastic, but just for the purposes of this video, hopefully this will work okay. I have got my cat in the room and she is exploring things and so she may jog the tripod from time to time, so just excuse her. So I'm going to start by laying out some of the landscape dyed raving first of all. Yeah, I really enjoyed dyeing this wool a couple of weeks ago, and I've been thinking about what projects to use it for, and actually this feels like a really good way to use it. What I have here is a little kind of portion of the wool which I think I stirred a little bit too vigorously in the saucepan, and it felted ever so slightly in the pan because I think I was just being a little bit too rough with it, and so I didn't want to put this piece up for sale in my Etsy shop if I didn't, if I wasn't happy with the quality of it. I didn't want to put it for sale, so I thought I would use it myself. Parts of it are fine, but there are definitely kind of the end pieces like this. I just must have been a little bit too rough with it in the pan. It happens. I remember feeling quite impatient that day because I was having trouble getting the fire going, and I was getting a bit frustrated with the water not coming up to boil, and I think I was just feeling a bit impatient, and I must have just overstirred it a bit. So, but it's fine for this project. Works quite well actually. So I'm just laying a foundation base down now. And I'm thinking actually that what I might do is I might stop chatting and just let you watch this process as I build up the layers. And I might put a little bit of music over the top of this perhaps. So I'm just going to be quiet now and lay these foundation pieces on, and then I'll put some pieces on top to create some interest and some texture. So I think I'm happy with this now as it is. I've tried to add lots of different things on. I find that as much texture as I can get in works really well with these bookmarks. So the next stage now is for me to just wet this down, and then I'll put some netting over the top, which I've got here, and then I'll start adding soap and start felting it. And at first you want to keep all the movements really, really gentle, because you don't want to dislodge any fibre from where you've put it. So, I mean, of course some gets dislodged as a matter of course, but you don't want to dislodge it too much. So I'm just going to carry on with that process now, so you can see how that works. So I've got this nifty little gadget. I've only recently acquired this. I've only used it 2 or 3 times, but it's actually really handy. And I'm just filling it up with warm water there. Can you see the bowl? You can't see the bowl. I've got a bowl of water here. I'm actually just going to move all the fibre that I'm not using so that I don't get it wet. And just move that well out the way. Sometimes my workspaces can get a bit chaotic. So I've got a bowl of warm water here, and I've got my soap here, and I just use an olive oil soap. It's just a very simple olive oil soap. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to start wetting it down just to kind of set the fibres. Oh, and the cat has decided to come and investigate what's happening. Haven't you, cat? This looks fun. No, don't you get involved, miss. I think I need a bit more water in there. That's better. It wasn't quite full enough. There we are. So I don't want to use too much water because I haven't set myself up properly here today. Usually I would have like a tray or something underneath where I'm working and a couple of towels. And now I was a little bit, I don't know, I was just trying to be a little bit spontaneous, and I just didn't do those things today. And so I'm actually just felting directly onto some bubble wrap. Thank you, Tinker, for helping. And so actually I'm being just a little bit cautious not to use too much water, because otherwise I'm just going to flood the kitchen table. Probably would have been a good idea for me to have a bit more of a lip here as well, but this is all okay. We'll be fine. The wool absorbs. Oh, Tinker, don't drink that. No, it's got soap in it. The wool absorbs so much of the water, and I think I can be relatively conservative. I'm hoping. Right, I'm finding that this is sticking to me a little, so I'm just going to put the netting on now. And what the netting does is it just kind of holds everything in place. I mean, I'm sure that, you know, everybody watching, or a lot of people watching anyway, you probably know exactly what I'm doing. I'm sure there's a lot of felters watching, and you know what I'm doing. But just for those, you know, for anybody who isn't sure, then yeah, the netting is there just basically to protect your work, so that when you're handling it, you don't get all those fibres sticking to your wet hands. The soap as well really helps. You know, if your hands are soapy and wet enough, well, it just, I was going to say the fibre shouldn't stick, but it does, but it sticks less. But the netting really helps to kind of keep everything in place. So I'm just pushing all of the water and soap into the fibre. I have a tendency to use masses of soap and then regret it when it lathers up something awful. So, oh, don't lick the soap, Tinker. Tinker, no, don't lick the soap, please. That is not going to taste nice. A little bit more water on. So we just had a really big interruption there. Jem and Ellie decided to come in to get some lunch from the kitchen. So I just went and had a little chat with them and made myself another cup of tea, and now I'm back again. So this has gone a little bit cold because I've had a little bit of an interruption, but it's okay. It'll be fine. It won't be a problem at all. So I've been basically just patting it down like this, and it all feels like nicely wet now. You can see as I'm, or can you see actually, as I'm pressing down, there's water puddling. So that's a good indication that it's wet enough. And I've been doing these little movements just to start the wet felting process. Just need very wet soapy hands so that your hands can slide on the netting enough. So I'm just going to do this for a little while now, just to get the fibres just to start felting. So at intervals you need to just lift the netting so that the fibres don't actually felt onto the netting. I'm actually just going to see if I can start to felt it like this. It's formed kind of a skin now. It's not very well felted, but it's not minding me doing this. So yeah, just need to carry on going. A little bit longer. It's a long process, felt making. So I've worked out a good setup here. Got a towel on the table now to catch any water that comes out from here. And I've wrapped this around a small piece of doweling, which is just, I actually swapped it for this one because this one's a bit thinner. the other one that I showed you was a little bit too thick. Yeah, and I've tied it on the ends, and now the idea is just to roll like this, the felt. And some people are quite specific about the way they roll, and they count the number of times, and I think, you know, probably that's what you're supposed to do. But actually I don't. I just kind of go by the feel of the felt, and yeah, I just kind of wing it a little bit. So I'm just going to do this now for the next few minutes, and then I will show you how I unwrap it and then turn it the other way so that I can roll it in the opposite direction. And as I explained earlier, you have to roll it in all 4 directions so that you get an even felt. I can feel that this is getting quite loose around the doweling rod, and in my experience, when that happens and it goes quite loose, you end up with creases. So I'm just going to unwrap this actually and see if I can't tighten it up a little bit. I think maybe I didn't roll it quite as tightly as I should have. So we'll just unroll this. So that's this part of the process finished now. So what will happen next is that I'll take this over to my sink now in the kitchen, and I'm going to run it under really hot water, and then I'm going to turn the hot water off and remove the felt from the sink, and then blast really cold water into the sink and submerge the felt into that, and alternating the hot and the cold and the hot and the cold about 3 times. And that's not only washing the soap out, but it's also shocking the felt, and it'll full it. And part of that process is that I'll kind of scrunch it up like this as well. You can see how much water is coming out. Just squeeze it out over this bowl. So yeah, it's called fulling when I'll do that to it now. I'm not going to film that part of it. I'm just going to go and do it, and then I'll come back here to show you the finished item. Okay. So I've finished fulling this piece of felt now at the kitchen sink, and all the soap's rinsed out, and I've alternated the hot and the cold like I was just explaining. So it's gone really nice and thick now, and it feels really strong. So yeah, this is how it looks. You can see all the colours in there. I'm really loving all the texture and the colours that came through in the end result. And the back, you can, on the back actually, you can see the effect of the landscape dyes, that kind of variegated green. Yeah, it's come out really nicely. The edges are a little bit thinner than I would have liked. I maybe needed to kind of gather it in a little bit, but that won't actually matter for this project, because what I will do next is dry this. It's nice and warm outside, so I'm going to put it outside for a bit, but then this evening I think I'm going to light the wood stove and dry it on the plate rack on top of the stove. But then what I'll do is I've got these little templates that I cut around to get the shape of the bookmarks, and then I stitch around the edges with a decorative stitch and then add beads and pendants to them. And so what I was saying is that it doesn't actually matter that the edges are a bit thin, because I can just avoid using the edges. That's absolutely fine. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed that little video, just watching the process of me wet felting. Like I say, I'd really like to do a tutorial video at some point where I explain properly all the steps, but for now, yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you have a lovely rest of the day and a lovely week, and I will see you back here again next week with something else. Thanks for watching. Bye now.